Steve, morning. Could you tell us your reflections on Wednesday? How do you feel about everything that's happened then and since?
I've got to be honest, fantastic reaction to the words that I said. Great support from everybody. A lot of good people, a lot of good messages. All very supportive. Good message from Rangers, good message from the SFA, good message from the Scottish Government, so everybody's speaking well.
Was this issue something that had been burning in your mind before Wednesday and before what we saw on Sunday here as well?
I can't say it was burning in my mind. It's always in my mind when you come from the west coast of Scotland. It's an issue that's there, it's in society here. And unfortunately it's started to rear its ugly head again through football, which is what I'm involved in.
There has been a lot said in support of you in the last 24 hours and in support of Kris. Do you think, though, that anything can be done and will be done to fix the problem?
I think things can be done. Will be done is probably much more difficult to address. I'm not a politician, I'm not a policeman. I'm a football manager. I've worked in football pretty much all my adult life. It's not nice. I think there's been advances. If you take the issue of racism, there's been advances. But you see in recent times, still instances, still occasions when it comes out. I think in the society here in Scotland there has been advances. When I was a player, so going back to 1984, 85, 86, Rangers didn't sign Catholic players. And when I was at St Mirren, there was an inquiry when Graham Souness took over about me going to Rangers. And I remember at the time the manager, Alex Smith, said, "No, you couldn't do that, son." And it wasn't because there was any racism or any sectarianism from Alex, he was just protecting me as a person. Not long afterwards, Maurice Johnson went there as the first sort of headline Catholic to sign for Rangers. So obviously there's been massive advances. When I mentioned the other night about the approach, it was an approach from Rangers to speak, and apologies to Craig, who's sitting at the back. There was an approach, and that was one of the issues that we discussed, because me being from the West Coast, I sensed that would be one of the issues. Rangers assured me that they as a club had addressed it and were trying to address it, and it wasn't an issue anymore. But I think you see what's happened to myself the other night, what happened to Kris on Sunday, it's still an issue.
Do you feel that this is a problem that clubs need to and the football authorities need to fix, or does the government need to take charge of this?
Everybody has to take some responsibility, and everybody has to try and work together to change it. It won't change overnight, but the fact that it's back in the headlines, we're back talking about it, is sad in one way, but it's positive in another way.
You spoke very emotionally the other night about the fact that your children have been guarded against this, or have been out of this, don't know anything about it because of the time spent down south. Are you surprised, or were you surprised when you come back up at the level of the problem?
I have to say this, the man sitting next to me is a braver man than me, because he lives in this part of the world, and he's willing to sit here beside me and support. We support each other. At Kilmarnock here we're all inclusive. There are no divides. Nothing. I could have brought Yusuf up, Yusuf Malumba, black, Muslim. We have no divides here at Kilmarnock, and that's what we would like for every club in Scotland, for every part of this country. But we don't have that at this moment in time. For me, when I spoke about my children, what was correct is what I feel. I'm so happy for them. That they don't have to understand this, they don't have to live with this. I've had so many messages of support from people in England saying, "I saw you on the telly, I hope you're okay." What was the reason? They don't understand. They don't understand what we're talking about up here. And I think that's a sad reflection on us as a society.
And one of the accusations after your comments was that you didn't pick up on what Kris had said a few days earlier. And I wonder if that's part of the problem, that people are just pointing fingers in the wrong direction.
when I did the pressing, there's people in here that'll back me up in this. I didn't know that Kris had been hit by a coin, and I didn't know that they'd been chanting against him. When I did the press, I spoke about the majority have to speak up and shout down the minority. So I think that's addressing it.
Is it time for strict liability in Scottish football?
I'm not really, I have to be honest. I've seen that mentioned a few times, and I know there was before I came back to Scotland, there was some kind of law in place that was repealed or thrown out. So it's something I would have to study a little bit more before I could give a full answer on that one. I saw Craig, I think Craig Levine spoke about it a little bit in his press yesterday, but it's something that without a greater knowledge, I wouldn't like to speak about that one.
Kris, how big a problem has it been for you throughout your career?
I've grew up with it, you know, as I said, I think the manager's touched on it there, like, he's been away and came back and it's still here. I've grew up in it, so I don't know any different. You know, I think for me, when I look at, I try to bring my kids up, as the manager said there, you know, he took his kids away and brought them up that way. My kids, they wouldn't know any different. So it's not everybody in the west of Scotland. You know, I think that the big thing here is that there is a small group of people still willing to chant and say and do whatever they want. My issue, as I said, maybe it's wrong, but I'm used to the chants. I can take it. It doesn't bother me. As I said on Monday when I spoke to you, Charles, it's water off a duck's back to me, because as I said, I've grew up in it. But my incident or my gripe was the coin throwing. As I said, that's a step too far for me.
But I wonder, given just what you're saying there, that you're used to, it's water off a duck's back to me. Is it a case that in the west of Scotland it's almost been normalised because it's been going on?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know any of that. I mean, I can't sit here and say, I mean, the manager's moved away and lived another life and then came back. I've no. Do you know what I mean? I had a 2-year spell at the country and everything, but I was in the country, you know, more or less every month. So you know, it's part and parcel of being an Old Firm player. What I will say is, you know, I can't sit here and have any problems with. To an extent, Rangers and Celtic, because that's why you get paid what you get paid. I've had a good life off the back of it. That I'm not saying it's right, but there's a price to pay when you play with the Old Firm. The chance, as I said, I'm used to it. Maybe because it happens that often, I'll say the phrase again. You know, it is water off a duck's back. But does it make it right? No. You know, but my issue was it's went that step too far. And when you get coins thrown at you or objects thrown at other people, and by the way, it's not just from Sunday. When there's objects thrown at officials, objects thrown at people, there's a problem that needs addressed. And I think, going back to what I said on Monday, that we will wait until something serious happens and then act on it. We have an opportunity right now to act on it. So why do we not do it?
Going back, Steve, to what could be done and this issue of strict liability. If this was a UEFA game on Wednesday night or a UEFA game on Sunday here, there would have likely been a sanction coming from UEFA because they operate under different laws. Scottish clubs have voted against the strict liability. Kilmarnock are one of the clubs that voted against it. Would this club change its tune and vote for that, do you think?
I don't know. I'd have to sit down with Billy, Phyllis, Cathy and Kirsten, the people who run the club, and we'd have to talk it through. So honestly, I can't answer that one.
Do you see the thing on the strict liability? Like, for example, if there's people, you know, we're talking about maybe deducting points and stuff like that as well. What a load of rubbish! I mean, it's not possible to do it. If you know, say for example, right now Celtic are top of the league. Some idiot can go and pay a Rangers fan to go and sit in the Celtic end and throw a ball, or they're going to get points taken off them. It's ludicrous to actually suggest, oh, we'll take points off somebody. You know what I mean? It's a wider aspect that needs addressed. It's not just football clubs, it's society that needs educated right from the very bottom.
I think that's the SFA's point yesterday. This isn't just a football issue, so you guys would back that in terms of the government trying to do something.
It's definitely a society issue. The same as racism is a society issue. It rears its head in football because football is a popular sport and everybody, not everybody, but the majority of people watch and take interest in what happens in sport. it's football, especially in this country. I think just to go back to what Kris is saying about Old Firm players and people that have been connected with the Old Firm, maybe accepting it a little bit more or understanding it a little bit more. I know that Neil Lennon touched on the subject earlier in the season, and maybe it disappeared quite quickly because it was Neil. I have no connection with Celtic or Rangers. I have no connection. The only part that I can see is that I was brought up as a Catholic in the west coast of Scotland. That shouldn't be an issue in this day and age. Why is that an issue? I'm definitely not a Fenian.
What do you hope, just finally, from me, what do you hope that this joint approach leads to? What do you hope to gain from this?
I hope that the publicity and the good words that have come out recently manifest itself into good policy, better policy, and hopefully a better society in the future.
To echo, you know, for me as a wider range, it needs educated. You know, there's no getting away from it. That, I mean, it's not just people who go to football games. There is a wider range of society that needs educated. You know, that, as I said, when you're brought up, you know, in Scotland, you know, 9 times out of 10 it's either Rangers or Celtic, and then you're either following, you know, the Catholic way or the Protestant way. That's life. But you know, I think that in terms of where we are, can something be done about it? Yes, because my kids don't know any different. So I've brought them up correct, not to follow either, you know, Protestant or Catholic. So it doesn't. I think there is an education part that's missing somewhere along the lines. Because what I will say is, you're not born a bigot. You're not born a racist. It's taught. So you know, in terms of people teaching, you know, their kids to do it, maybe go the other way.
Steve, would it make you think twice about continuing to work in Scotland if nothing was done about this in the next few months or years? Or
No, for me is I came back to Scotland to work for Kilmarnock. I'll continue to do that. The club have been good to me. I've enjoyed my time working for Kilmarnock. Obviously, what happened this week is hopefully one isolated incident that will lead to better things in the future. If myself and Kris speaking out about it, or talking about it with everyone in the room this morning, can stimulate a little bit more interest, a little bit more desire to make the country a better place for everybody to live in, then great. But in terms of football, is just carry on with the job and try and get back to winning ways.
Have you spoken to anyone at Rangers? Has anyone contacted you?
Not directly. There's been people in touch with the club. And like I said before, I'm grateful to the response from Rangers and all the other people that have spoken out in support of what happened the other night.
Easy enough to move on to the next game, or have you managed to think about that?
No, always thinking about that, and that's my job, you know. So the first part of your job is always easy. So Livingston away is another tough game for us. We're in the middle of a really difficult run of fixtures. It was obviously a really difficult night for us at Ibrox the other night because of circumstances. The way the game went for us didn't fall correctly. It was a disappointing night, but we'll look to bounce back.